So now we have to register the new user, that is to save the driver information to the Firebase real-time database. So for that purpose, on our sign up screen here, below this validate form, let's create a new method by the name save driver info. Save driver info now. And first of all, in the validate form where we say show dialog, okay, cut this code from here and we will paste it inside the save driver info now, just like this. And in the else statement, make sure to call the function which is save driver info now, okay, just like this. So if everything is correct, okay, if all the conditions are satisfied, I mean if the name is greater than 3 characters, if the email is proper, and if the password is, if the phone number is also provided, and if the password is greater than 6 or 6, then in else condition, I mean in that case, okay, when this condition has been checked successfully, okay, and everything is provided in the form, then the else statement will execute and we will save the driver info to the Firebase real-time database. So let's just do that, okay. After the show dialog, we can say final user, which belongs to the Firebase or dot. Can give it name as Firebase user equals to, first of all add this parenthesis and then add a semicolon, okay, and then inside this parenthesis we can say make this save driver info method as asynchronous, and here we can say wait. Let's create a new folder, new directory, and we will give it name as global, okay, and then right click on global, new dot file, and we will give it name as global. So our global.dot file, which is inside the global folder, has been created, and here we are going to create a variable by the name Firebase auth, and let's give it name as f underscore Firebase auth equals to Firebase auth dot Firebase auth dot instance, okay, just like this. And then now on the sign up screen here we can say underscore. If it do not show, give you a suggestion, it simply means that this is private, okay. Here if you come here to the global.dot, then we add here this underscore, and this underscore basically make this Firebase auth private, okay, and private simply means that we do not access it, we cannot access it from any other file, okay. So just remove the underscore from it, okay, and instead of calling it Firebase auth, let's give it name f auth, which simply means Firebase auth, okay. And now let's just write here f auth. First of all, let's break this in pieces, okay, so that we can see the code easily, okay. Just press enter, and then in here we can simply say wait f auth dot create user with email and password, okay, and it basically required 2 parameters. The email and password we have to pass to it, so we can pass it one by one. First of all, the first parameter is the email, and which we have here inside the email text editing controller. So we can say email text editing controller dot text dot trim, comma, then we have password, we can say password text editing controller dot text dot trim. Now you will be thinking what this trim means, okay. Let me just show it to you. First of all, here when you type something, for example phone number, okay, and then you press extra space, okay, you give extra space at the end, let's say in case of password, okay, if you give it extra space, then it will also count the extra space if we do not give this trim. Okay, if you do not write the trim. So for example, if your password is 123456 and then by mistake, let's say you press the space button, then it will also count that space. While you will remember that my password is from 1 to 6, but it will also count the space. That is, space will also become a part of the password. So then later on you will try to log in by giving password from 1 to 6, and your password will be not from 1 to 6, but it will have an extra space also. Okay, when you press space, then it also count. Okay, space has also its own ASCII value. Same goes for the email. Okay, it will return an error message from the Firebase authentication as a result if you give extra space here. So that's why, okay, we do not want to include the extra spaces, so we use .trim alongside with it. So I hope you understand this now. And then after it, create user with email password. It just requires email and password, and basically this piece of code will create a new user in the Firebase authentication. That is in here. Okay, in the authentication it will create a brand new user. Okay, after that of course we want to save that user information in the real-time database as well. So first of all, I mean, if this executes successfully, in that case, okay, a new user will be created. Otherwise there is also a chance that any error can occur. So you can simply say .catch error, okay, after the ending parenthesis of create user with email and password, and then here we can say MSG, that is the error message which it will give us as a return. So in here we can say, first of all, make sure to add before this semicolon, okay, we can add .user, okay, just like this. And then in case if any error occur, first of all we want to make our progress dialog disappear, so we can say navigator.pop context. Also make sure to add here this, okay, nullable, and then we will of course display the Flutter toast. I mean that error message we have to display, so Flutter toast dot show text, and we can say error. And what is the error? Using the concatenation sign plus, we will say msg dot to string. So let me tell you one more time, okay, this piece of code will basically, if this is executed successfully, a brand new user will be created in the Firebase authentication. Okay, you will see it here once we test the app, and then in case if any error occur, then it will simply get that message, error message, as a result, and we are displaying it in the toast message to the driver. After it, we want to save the driver information to the real-time database, okay, for later usage. So for that purpose, after this we can say if the Firebase user, if this not equals to null, if this not equals to null, it simply means that if a user has been created successfully in the Firebase authentication, okay, and so it will not be null. Okay, if it is null, it simply means the user has not been created successfully. So first of all, let's implement that else condition, okay, that is if the Firebase user is null, and if the user, which simply means the user has not been created. In that case we will also display, I mean we will first disappear our dialog, our progress dialog, and then using the Flutter toast we will display a message that is account has not been created. So after this, first of all, restart the app, okay, and now let's just implement and save the data to the real-time database. So we will create a map for saving our data, as it is the driver data, so we can say drivers map. For saving the ID of that driver, we can say Firebase user dot UID. comma name. Please use the same key names, okay? ID, for example, for saying the ID, it is ID and name, and the name is basically we can get it from our name text editing controller dot text dot trim, and then after it we have email and phone. So now this driver map contain this all information, so we have to save this driver map in our Firebase real-time database. So in here we can simply say now we will create a separate parent node by the name. First of all, let's create a reference to a database. So you can say Firebase database dot instance dot reference dot child. So we will have a parent node by the name drivers, and inside this parent node drivers we will save all the drivers information, okay, with the help of each driver unique user ID. Okay, so how we can do it? We can say here driver, let's give it name as, first of all, create a database reference object by the name drivers ref, which means driver reference, okay, and then we can say drivers reference dot child, and we will pass the ID of that specific driver who is going to register for the first time, okay, that is a new driver, and that driver has their own unique user ID, UID, with the help of which we can recognize that specific driver. And then we can say dot set, and here we have to pass our drivers map. Basically drivers map contain our whole information, okay. So inside the drivers parent node in the real-time database we will save that unique, that driver who is trying to register as a new driver, okay, and we are going to save the information with the help of that unique user ID for that specific driver. For each driver, each driver will have their own unique ID. After this we want to come here to the global dot dot, and here we need to create an instance of, okay, this one, Firebase dot dot, an instance of user, and we will give it name as current Firebase user, okay, just like this. And then here on our sign up screen we will assign our Firebase user to the current Firebase user, just like this. And then after it we will send the driver to the car info screen. So for that purpose we will simply add here navigator.push and send the driver to the car info screen. Now also, if you want, you can display a Flutter toast message, and it will be basically to tell the driver that his account has been created. Okay, now the next step is basically to save the car info to the database. So let's just quickly go to the car info screen as well, and here on the car info screen the save now button, which is here, okay, remove the navigator.push, we do not need that here on the car info screen. On the on pressed, basically we will call a function. Let's implement that here quickly above the widget build. Save car info, this is our method, and in here first of all we have to define a map, just like we did here for saving the driver personal information. Okay, so just copy this whole map from here, and on the car info screen we can paste it here. Okay, and we can say instead of driver map we can say driver car info map, driver car info map. And here we have to basically save the car color, then of course the car number, and then we have the car model, and then the type, which is which type of car, Uber X, Uber Go, or which one. And the values of this, as you know, it is saved in the car color text editing controller dot text dot trim. And then for the car number, it is car number text editing controller dot text dot trim. And then of course the car model dot text editing controller dot text dot trim. And the value for the type, car type, it is, if you remember, we have assigned it to our selected car type. So now we have to save it to the database. So on the sign up screen, the same reference which we created here, okay, which is for the drivers, let's just copy it from here, and on the car info screen after the map we can paste it. And here first of all import the Firebase database dot and the drivers collection. Inside that we have that specific driver, so we can say current Firebase user dot UID. Make sure to add a null check here, okay. And then of course the map we have to pass driver car info map. Now for saving the car info, we will create a main child within the data of that specific driver, okay. That is, it will have, you can say this will be a subchild, and I will show it to you guys when we test the app. So we can say by the name car underscore details, this will be a subchild car underscore details, okay, for that specific driver who is now going to, who has already registered, I mean personal information has been saved, and now the car details we also saved here. Now before we call over this function which is save car info, of course we have to add a validation, okay, and then we can call our this save car info method. So for that purpose, the button which is by the name save now, this one here, first of all we have to check, that is if, so we can check first the car color text editing controller dot text dot is not empty, if this is not empty, and if the car number text editing controller dot text dot is not empty, if this is also not empty, and then the car model text editing controller dot text dot is not empty, if this is also not empty. Let's just break this in pieces so that we can see it easily, okay. And then of course the last one, which is basically the selected car type. So if the selected car type, let me just check this, I mean how we define it, selected car type, okay. So we can say that now, that is, if the selected car type, if this not equals to null, okay, if this is not equals to null, that is, if it has some value, only then we can save it. We can call our function which is save car info, just like this. So simple and so easy. And then of course we can add a Flutter toast just to let the driver know. Flutter toast dot show toast, and we can say car details has been saved. Congratulations. So yeah, this is all about this whole registration process. So now car info screen, and then of course after the successful this we have to do something, which is to in the car info screen, after successful car details, when it is saved, we are going to send the driver to the page which is called splash screen, and I will tell you why we are doing this. Okay, my splash screen, because on the my splash screen we will add a condition now. So yes, now let's just restart the app. I will go to the database, okay, first of all, so that we can check it at real time. So I'm going to create a user by the name, let's say Muhammad Ali is the user, then the email of course, and then the phone number, and then of course the password, and yeah, that's it. Now let's just click on create account. Processing, please wait. Account has been created. We are on the car info screen. Now we have to, if you come here to the Firebase Authentication, okay, and click on this reload button, here you can see the authentication has been created. And if you go to the real-time database, so here you can see the parent node drivers has been created, and it contains our first driver using their unique ID. If you notice this A06, if you come here to the authentication, then here you can see A06BEN, A06BEN, which is the ID for our first driver who has just registered ali@gmail.com, ID, name, phone, okay, and you can see the values of it here. So how this code executed, just like I told you guys, okay, sign up screen. If you see here, first of all, as I told you, first of all it create, if everything goes successful, okay, then it create a user in the Firebase Authentication, that is with email and password, okay, and it also give us this UID for this driver email. And then when it goes well, then we check that if the user has been created successfully, then save this information using the parent node reference for all the drivers, okay, inside that parent node drivers, using that unique ID for that specific driver, and save the map, that is driver map, that is driver data in here, okay, in the real-time database. So I hope you understand this, okay. This is so simple and so easy, okay. Inside the drivers parent node, the first driver, using the driver unique ID, we save their driver map, that is the driver information. And then the next thing is basically it here, okay. Then we go to the car info screen here, okay. So here let's first fill up the form. Let's say the car model is Tesla Model S, and the car number, let's say, is this, and then the car color, let's say, is black, and then of course we have to choose the car type, Uber Go, anyone you can choose, and then click on save now. And now car details has been saved. Congratulations, it go to display screen. And now if I come here, then here you can see inside that specific driver node, okay, for that specific driver whose name is Muhammad Ali, and inside it we have a sub collection. A sub collection has been collected, which is created, which is by the name car underscore details, okay. So here you can see car color, car model, car number, and type. So that is why we say here, that is, we create a map, okay, the data which is on the car detail screen, and then we create a reference to the drivers, which is the parent node for saving all the drivers information, and that specific driver ID we pass here, and inside that it has a sub child node, or you can say sub-child parent node by the name car details, which contain all driver, the driver car info, all car info for that specific driver car. Okay, car details, a sub parent child, you can say, okay, in here for that specific driver. So it is a sub child which contains all the information related to the car details.